On a hot Monday morning in Lagos, a man worth more than 10 billion naira stood in front of his own company gate wearing torn slippers, a faded polo shirt, and carrying a rusty metal bucket. As cars honked and staff rushed past him without a single greeting, he whispered to himself, "Today, nobody knows I am a billionaire. Let me see who will still respect me." Welcome, dear viewers, to another powerful African folktale. If you love emotional stories that will touch your heart and shock you at the same time, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us till the very end. This story of hidden wealth, true love, and secret tests will change the way you look at people forever. Now, let us begin. The man in slippers was David Adeyemi, the hidden owner of Sunrise Innovations, one of the biggest tech and renewable energy companies in West Africa. For years, his face had never appeared in newspapers or on TV. He avoided interviews, avoided parties, avoided social media. People knew his name, but almost nobody knew his face. David was only 34, but his heart was tired. Tired of fake smiles at business meetings. Tired of women who suddenly became in love the moment they saw his cars and heard about his bank account. Tired of friends who only remembered him when they needed a favor. He had suffered one last embarrassment that finally broke him. A woman he had been dating for months, Anita, had invited her friends for a simple dinner. While she thought David was in the restroom, he had walked past the kitchen door and heard Anita laughing loudly. "Ah, forget love, my sisters," she said. "This one is pure investment. Once I lock him with pregnancy, my suffering has finished." Her friends screamed and clapped. David had stood there frozen, his heart turning cold. That night he drove home alone, cancelled the relationship, and made a decision that would change his life. "No more," he told his closest friend and personal assistant, Henry. "I must know who will love me if I have nothing. I want to see how people behave when they think I am poor." Henry had looked at him like he was joking. "Oga, you? Poor? In this Lagos? How?" David smiled sadly. "I will go down to the lowest place in my own company. I will become a cleaner." 1 week later, the plan began. His usual fine haircut was trimmed down and left rough. He rubbed dark powder into his face and neck to look older and more worn out. The expensive perfume was replaced with the faint smell of detergent. His Italian shoes went back into the wardrobe. On his feet he wore rubber slippers that slapped the ground as he walked. Henry arranged everything quietly. A fake file was created in the HR system with the name John Michael, Contract Cleaner. Only Henry and the head of security knew the truth. Now, here he was, standing at the gate of Sunrise Innovations in Ikeja like any ordinary applicant. The security guard barely looked at him. "Yes, who are you looking for?" "I'm the new cleaner," David said in a rougher voice, his eyes lowered. The guard yawned, took the ID card from him, glanced at it, and handed it back. "Janitorial office. Ground floor. Ask anybody." David nodded. Nobody offered to show him the way. Staff brushed past him, some talking loudly about weekend parties, some scrolling on their phones. One young man in a suit bumped his shoulder and didn't bother to say sorry. Inside, the building was bright and cold with air conditioning. Glass doors, white tiles, framed awards on the walls. David had seen all these things many times as the owner, but today it felt different. Today he was invisible. He found the janitorial office and knocked gently. "Come in," a woman's voice answered. He pushed the door open and saw a middle-aged woman with short hair and tired eyes behind a small desk. Her name tag read, Mrs. Grace, Cleaning Supervisor. "You are the new one?" she asked without a smile. "Yes, ma. My name is John," he replied. She didn't look impressed. "We start work here 6:30 a.m. sharp. No late coming. Your area is the ground floor toilets, lobby, and staircase. You will join night cleaning twice a week. Understood?" "Yes, ma." She pointed lazily at a small storeroom. "Your mop, bucket, brush are there. Use the purple chemical for the toilet, the blue one for the floor. Oya, start from the male toilet. It is smelling." David picked up the old mop, rubber gloves, and cleaning liquid. As he walked to the toilets, his chest felt heavy. All his life people had treated him like someone important. Now, in one morning, he had become another man that nobody respected. Inside the male toilet, he was greeted by a strong smell of urine and cleaning acid. Tissue papers lay on the floor. Someone had poured coffee into the sink and left brown stains everywhere. He swallowed, bent down, and started to scrub. Minutes turned into hours. His back began to ache. Water splashed on his trousers. Twice, young staff members walked in, looked at him like he was part of the furniture, did their business, and walked out without a word. By late morning, the lobby tiles were shining. Sweat ran down his neck even in the cool air. He wiped his forehead with the back of his hand and pushed the mop towards the glass entrance. Then something small happened that cut through his tiredness. A paper cup rolled across the floor towards him. He looked up and saw a young woman kneeling beside a scattered stack of files, right there in the lobby. Someone had bumped into her and kept walking. The files were everywhere, her bag open, pen rolling away. David moved quickly, dropping the mop. He picked the pen and one of the files before it slid under a chair. "Here, let me help," he said. The woman looked up, surprised. Her eyes were soft, her hair pulled back neatly. Her shoes were old but clean, and the strap of her simple handbag was sewn with thread in one corner. "Ah, thank you," she said, a little breathless. "I didn't see that guy coming." He bent to gather more papers. As he moved closer, he saw her name on the top file, Linda Okoro, Customer Support. She stacked the files against her chest, then paused and really looked at him. Most people's eyes slid past him quickly, but hers stayed steady. "You're the new cleaner, right?" she asked with a small smile. "Yes, Ma," he replied, standing straight. She frowned. "Please, don't call me Ma. I'm also staff like you. My name is Linda." He nodded slowly, almost forgetting his role. "Okay, Linda." She shifted the files to one arm and reached into her bag. She brought out a small sachet of water, the kind many people buy on the street. "Have you eaten?" she asked. He hesitated. "Not yet." "Take this at least," she said, pressing the water into his hand. "This Lagos heat doesn't respect anybody. Thank you for helping me." For a few seconds, David could not speak. It was such a small thing, just a sachet of water. But after a whole morning of being ignored, it felt like a heavy gift. "Thank you," he managed. She smiled again, a real smile, not the fake office one. "God bless your hands," she said, then hurried towards the elevator, hugging her files. David watched her go, the cold water sweating in his palm. For the first time that day, something warm touched his chest. He whispered to himself, "Maybe, just maybe. This is the kind of heart I have been searching for." But unknown to him, as he turned back to his mop, two senior staff were standing upstairs, behind the glass railing, watching the scene below. One of them, a man in a sharp grey suit with a dangerous smile, narrowed his eyes at Linda and the cleaner. He leaned towards his colleague and said, "Who is that girl again?" "That Linda. I like her spirit. And that cleaner. I don't like how she is smiling at him." The colleague laughed nervously. "That's Mr. Charles, our general manager. Once he notices somebody, problem can start." Downstairs, David had no idea that from this simple sachet of water, a storm was already gathering around both him and Linda, a storm that would test their hearts in ways they never imagined. The next morning, before the sun fully rose over Lagos, David was already at the company gate. The air was cool, the streets still yawning awake. He wore the same faded polo, the same rubber slippers, his billionaire face hidden behind tired eyes and a cheap cap. He greeted the sleepy security guard, signed a rough-looking attendance sheet for cleaners, and walked into his own building like a stranger. Inside the lobby, he dipped the mop into the bucket and began from one corner, working in slow, careful strokes. The hum of the air conditioners was the only sound. For a while, it was peaceful. Then, as staff started arriving, the invisible wall appeared again. Shoes clicked across the floor. Perfumes floated in the air. People walked past him, sometimes stepping around the wet floor, sometimes almost kicking the bucket. Nobody greeted him. "Cleaner, a big shift," one lady in a tight dress said, almost tripping. "Do you want to pour water on my shoe?" "Sorry," David replied quietly, pulling the bucket back. By mid-morning, he was scrubbing a stubborn stain near the staircase when a familiar voice floated down. "Good morning, John," Linda said. His head snapped up before he caught himself. She stood on the stairs in a simple yellow blouse and a black skirt, holding her laptop bag. Her hair was packed in a neat bun. She looked tired but bright. "Good morning, Linda," he replied, allowing a small smile. She came down 2 more steps and lowered her voice. "You came very early, ABI?" "Yes. Work starts early for us," he said. She shook her head. "You people try. God will reward you." She hesitated, then reached into her bag. "I made toast this morning and could not finish it. Please take." She brought out a neatly wrapped piece of bread in foil. David stared at it, his chest tight. "You don't have to," he began. "I know," she cut in softly. "But I want to. If I had your strength, I would have gone to Hawk Pure Water long time ago. Please eat. You look tired." Slowly, he collected the food. "Thank you, Linda." She smiled and walked away, and again, he watched her go with that strange warmth burning quietly inside him. But they weren't alone. On the first-floor balcony, leaning on the glass rail like a king watching his subjects, Mr. Charles stood in his fine grey suit, scrolling through his phone. When he looked up, he saw exactly what he had been waiting for. Linda, talking and smiling with the new cleaner. His jaw tightened. "Interesting," he murmured. Later that afternoon, as David was rinsing his mop in a back corridor, he passed by one of the smaller meeting rooms and heard voices inside. The door was slightly open. "I don't care what HR says," Mr. Charles' voice cut through, sharp and proud. "When I like something, I get it." David froze. Another voice, one of the male supervisors, laughed nervously. "Sir, this Linda girl is different. Oh. She doesn't talk to anybody. Very quiet." "That is why I like her," Charles replied. "Challenge. What is she?" "Just customer support. If I decide today, she will be out. She will know who owns this place." David's hand tightened around the mop handle. "Owns this place?" He listened as Charles continued boasting. "Book a one-on-one review with her for tomorrow. Tell her it's about performance. I will handle the rest." The men laughed again. David stepped away quietly, anger burning in his throat. Only a few people knew the truth, and Charles was not one of them. Yet the man walked around the company like a little god. Back in the janitorial room, he sat on an old plastic chair, staring at nothing. Henry walked in a few minutes later in plain clothes, pretending to be delivering supplies. "Boss," he said under his breath. "How is it going?" David sighed. "I'm seeing things I used to hear only in reports. This place is bright on the outside, but some corners are dark." Henry looked worried. "Have you changed your mind?" David shook his head. "No. This is why I came down here. I need to know who deserves to stay when we start cleaning the real dirt." He dropped his voice even more. "There is a girl. Linda. She works in customer support." Henry's eyebrows lifted slightly. "Girl, as in?" David gave him a firm look. "Calm down. She is kind. Simple. She talks to me like a human being. She shares her food. She doesn't show off. I want to know more about her." Quietly. Henry nodded slowly. "Okay, I will check her file. No noise." That night, in his true life, David returned to his mansion in Lekki. The gate slid open automatically. The security men greeted him with full respect. Cars glowed under the compound lights. Inside, the house was silent and rich. But his heart was not in the marble floors or the leather chairs. He sat by the window with a plate of food he barely touched, thinking of a sachet of water and a piece of toast. He saw Linda's tired shoes in his mind, the sewn handbag strap, the joy in her eyes when she said, "God bless your hands." He whispered, What is your story, Linda? The next day at Sunrise Innovations, he found part of that answer. He was mopping near the back exit when he saw Linda there, leaning against the wall, talking on the phone in a low, shaky voice. Yes, sir, I know, she was saying. I will try to pay something this month. Please, just give me one more week. I don't want to leave that house. There was a pause. No, sir, I don't have anyone. I will see what I can do. Her shoulders dropped as she ended the call. For a second, she closed her eyes and pressed her phone to her chest. David pretended to squeeze water from the mop, but his ears were sharp. She noticed him and straightened quickly, forcing a smile. John, you are everywhere in this building. He gave a small laugh. We cleaners, we move like wind. She smiled faintly. True. He studied her face. Her eyes looked a little red. Are you okay? He asked. She nodded too quickly. I'm fine. Just landlord drama. I will survive. The words landlord drama stayed in his mind like an echo. That evening, Henry came by his office in the top floor, David's real office, where his real name was on the door and the windows looked over Lagos like a king's balcony. I checked her file, Henry said, dropping a folder on the table. Linda Okoro, 26, from Enugu State. First class in computer science from a state university, but she's been stuck in customer support for 2 years. Salary is small. No company apartment. David ran his finger over the printed details. First class? And still junior staff. Henry shrugged. Somebody buried her in the system, obviously. No uncle in power, maybe. David leaned back, jaw tight. Start the rent process, he said. Henry blinked. Sir. Find her landlord and pay 6 months' rent in advance. Cash. Anonymous. Henry smiled slowly. You're sure? Yes. That girl should not be begging a landlord on the phone again. And Henry. Yes, boss. Make sure it can never be traced back to me. Henry saluted him playfully. Consider it done. By the next morning, the first miracle had already reached Linda. She came to work with eyes still wide in shock, telling one of her colleagues how the landlord called her early in the morning, shouting, "Praise God, somebody cleared your rent." David listened from a distance as he wiped a corridor window. Her laughter was lighter. Her steps were freer. She looked up at the ceiling once and whispered, "Thank you." He smiled to himself but kept his face blank when she walked past him. "Good morning, John," she said, her voice bright. "Good morning, Linda," he replied, pretending not to know that somewhere in Soryalea, her landlord was still counting crisp Naira notes. But joy did not walk alone. That same afternoon, an email popped up on every staff system. Mandatory performance review, selected staff. Linda's name was on the list. Beside hers, in bold letters, were the words, "Review with General Manager, Mr. Charles." She stared at the screen, her heart beating fast. Across the lobby, David saw her expression change as she read, and he felt a cold wind move through his own chest. Far above, in his glass office, Charles adjusted his tie in the window reflection and smiled to himself. "You will not escape me this time," he muttered. And downstairs, the cleaner who was truly the owner tightened his grip on the mop, already sensing that something dark was waiting inside that performance review. The day of the performance review came faster than Linda wanted. From the moment she woke up in her small room in Soryalea, something felt heavy in her chest. She dressed slowly, smoothing the same black skirt she had worn countless times, pressing the button on her simple blouse twice even though it was already fastened. She checked her old phone. No airtime, no new messages, only the landlord's call from yesterday still sitting in her mind beside the miracle of cleared rent. "God, please go with me today," she whispered before stepping out. At Sunrise Innovations, the atmosphere was normal on the surface. Keyboards clicked. Printers hummed. Phones rang. But inside Linda's heart, there was only the echo of the email subject, Mandatory Performance Review, General Manager. Around 11 a.m., a message popped up on her system. "Linda, the GM will see you now," the HR secretary wrote. Her hands suddenly felt cold. She stood, adjusted her blouse, and walked through the open office. A few colleagues glanced at her with knowing looks. "Good luck," one whispered. "Better talk well, oh," another muttered. "If that man vex, your file can disappear." She forced a smile and kept walking. On the ground floor, near the staircase, she passed David. He was on his knees, scrubbing a stain that refused to leave the tiled floor. When he saw her face, he knew something was wrong. "Linda," he called quietly, "are you okay?" She stopped, swallowed, then nodded. "Yes, I'm going upstairs for a review with the GM." David's heart tightened. "Now?" "Yes." She tried to sound casual. "It's probably just routine." He watched her climb the stairs, his hand still gripping the wet brush, his spirit not at peace. Upstairs, the secretary barely looked at Linda. "You're Linda?" she asked. "Yes, Ma." "Go in. He's waiting." Linda knocked softly. "Come in." Mr. Charles' voice came, smooth and controlled. She stepped into the large office. The air smelled of strong cologne and leather. Framed certificates lined the wall behind him. Through the big glass window, you could see almost half of Ikeja. "Good morning, sir," she said gently. "Ah, Linda," Charles smiled, standing up. "My star girl. Please, sit." She sat on the chair opposite his table, placing her hands on her lap to hide the slight trembling. He did not open any file. He did not look at any document. Instead, he leaned back, studying her from head to toe. "How long have you worked here now?" he asked. 2 years, sir." 2 years, he repeated slowly. "And no scandal, no gossip, no loud behavior. I like that." "Thank you, sir." He got up and walked around the table, perching casually on the edge, much closer to her. "You know I called you because I have been watching you," he said. "You are different from the others. You carry yourself well. You don't chase men. You don't beg. I respect that." Linda kept quiet, unsure where he was going. He smiled. "And because I respect you, I want to help you. Do you like this, your small position?" She swallowed. "I am grateful for the job, sir." "That is not what I asked," he chuckled. "I am asking if you like being stuck there. Customer support. Angry customers shouting in your ear. Small salary. No allowance. Is that the life you want?" "No, sir," she admitted softly. "Good," he said, "because I can change it." He walked to the cabinet and took out a sleek new phone, still in its box. He placed it gently on the table in front of her. "You see this?" he said. "This is nothing to me. If you stay close to me, your life will move faster than you can imagine. I can push your promotion. I can move you to a better department. I can arrange allowance, apartment, car. You will never worry about landlord again." Her breath caught. For a moment, it sounded like everything she had prayed for. But then, slowly, his hands settled on the armrest of her chair. Too close. His tone dropped. "All I ask," he continued, "is that you stop forming holy. Be mine. Just give me your time, your company, your body when I need it. You are a big girl. Don't pretend you don't understand." Her heart slammed against her ribs. "Sir," she said, her voice suddenly dry. "I can't do that." He blinked, then smiled, as if he hadn't heard correctly. "Maybe you didn't understand. I am offering you a better life, Linda. I run this place. No one can touch you if you are with me." "It's not about protection, sir," she replied, her voice shaking but firm. "I am grateful you noticed me, but I cannot trade my body for a promotion. I can't." The smile vanished from his face. His eyes turned cold. "You are refusing me?" he asked softly. She nodded, even though fear was crawling up her back. "Yes, sir. I am sorry." He stood up slowly, like a pot beginning to boil. "You think you can talk like this because of what?" he hissed. "You think I don't know girls like you? You will say no now, then run behind and sleep with one small manager to rise." "No," "Sir," she whispered, "that's not who I am." He slammed his palm on the table, making her jump. "If you walk out of this office without changing your answer, I will show you that I am not your mate in this company. I will bury your file so deep, your grandchildren will still be in customer support." Tears stung her eyes, but she held them back. "Sir, with respect," she said slowly, standing up, "I prefer to remain small with my dignity than become big by selling myself. If that means you bury my file, then so be it." He stared at her, shocked that such words were coming from someone in a simple blouse and old shoes. "Get out," he whispered. She turned and walked to the door, every step heavy, every breath tight. The new phone remained on the table, untouched. "Linda," his voice came again. She stopped, her hand on the door handle. "You will regret this," he said. "Mark my words." She did not answer. She walked out before her tears betrayed her. Downstairs, the world continued as usual. Phones rang. People laughed. Someone argued about football. In the back corridor, David was rinsing his mop when he saw her coming, her eyes wet, her steps uneven. "Linda," he called, dropping the mop. "What happened?" She tried to wave him off, but her voice broke. "I'm fine. I just need air." He moved closer, his own heart pounding. "You are not fine. Please tell me. Did someone shout at you? Is it your landlord again?" She shook her head and leaned against the wall, covering her face with both hands. "I can't do this," she whispered. "I'm tired." He lowered his voice. "Talk to me." Slowly, the words came out, halting at first, then rushing like a river. She told him about the performance review that was not a review, about the phone on the table, about the promises, about the price. "He said he will bury my file," she sobbed. "He said I will regret refusing him. John, this job is all I have. But I can't do what he wants. I can't." David's jaw clenched so hard it hurt. For a moment, he forgot the mop, the slippers, the fake name. All he saw was a frightened young woman who had chosen dignity, and a man in a fine suit trying to crush her for it. "Which he?" David asked, even though he already knew. "Mr. Charles," she whispered. "Please, don't say anything. He can sack you. He can sack me." David straightened slowly. "I will be back," he said. "John, please," she grabbed his arm. "Don't go there. I'm begging you." But he gently removed her hand, his eyes hard. "If I don't go, men like him will keep doing this to girls like you," he said quietly. "Wait here." She watched, stunned, as the man in old slippers walked away with the confidence of a lion. Moments later, there was a sharp knock on Charles' office door. "Come in," Charles barked, still fuming. The door opened, and to his surprise, the new cleaner walked in, cap in hand, eyes steady. "You again?" Charles snapped. "What do you want? Did somebody send you to clean here?" David closed the door behind him. "I came to talk to you," he said calmly. Charles' mouth twisted. "You must be very stupid. Who allowed you into my office?" David stepped forward, his rough clothes at complete war with the quiet power in his voice. "Stay away from Linda," he said. Charles froze for a second, then laughed loudly. "What did you just say?" "I said stay away from her," David repeated, louder. "Keep your hands, your promises, and your threats far from her." Charles stood up slowly. "Are you mad? Do you know who you are talking to?" "I know exactly who I'm talking to," David replied. "A bully in a fine suit. A man who thinks he owns what he is only managing. A man who uses his office to hunt desperate girls. I am warning you. Leave Linda alone." For a moment, something like fear flickered in Charles' eyes. The cleaner stood too straight, spoke too boldly, but pride swallowed the fear. "You are finished in this company," he hissed. "By tomorrow morning, you will not even be able to enter this gate. I will call the owner myself." David's lips twitched into a small, cold smile. "No," he said softly. "You will be the one to leave this place. Very soon. And when that day comes, Remember this conversation." He turned and walked out before Charles could reply, leaving the powerful man staring after a cleaner who spoke like a king. Downstairs, Linda was still by the wall, wiping her eyes. When she saw David coming back, she ran to him. "What did he say?" she asked. "Did he threaten you? I'm so scared." David looked at her gently. "Don't be afraid. He can't do anything to you." "That's not true," she whispered. "You don't know the kind of power he has here." "I know more than you think," David said quietly. "Whatever happens, I will not let him destroy you. That is my promise." She stared into his eyes and, for a moment, forgot his dirty shirt and rubber slippers. There was something deeper there, something she could not explain. That evening, in his mansion, David stood alone on his balcony, the city lights of Lagos blinking below like a scattered constellation. Henry stood beside him, arms folded. "So, it has started," Henry said. "Charles has crossed the line." David nodded slowly. "Begin the internal audit," he said. "Pull his files. Every bribe, every complaint, every misuse of power. Quietly." Henry frowned. "Are you ready to reveal yourself?" "Not yet," David answered. "But soon, before he harms Linda or any other woman again." The wind picked up, carrying the distant noise of honking buses and shouting hawkers. David looked out at the city and whispered, "Your time is running out, Charles. You just don't know it yet." The next days at Sunrise Innovations were like the calm before a heavy rain. On the surface, nothing had changed. Staff still rushed into the building every morning. Laughter still echoed in the corridors. The smell of coffee and printer ink still filled the air. But inside a few offices, quiet moves had begun. In his big glass office, Mr. Charles could not forget the cleaner's words. "You will be the one to leave this place. Very soon." He replayed it over and over, anger sitting in his chest like a stone. Who did that man think he was? A cleaner, talking like a prophet. On Wednesday morning, Charles picked up his phone and called the head of HR. "Good morning, sir," the HR man greeted. "I want the file of that new cleaner," Charles said. "What is his name again?" "John something." "Send his file to my office now. And prepare a termination letter for him. Effective immediately." The HR man hesitated. "Sir, all terminations must be cleared with the top office now. They sent a memo last week." "What top office?" Charles snapped. "Am I not your boss?" "Yes, sir. But," the man swallowed. "The board said any dismissal must go through them first. They said there is an ongoing audit." Charles froze. "Audit?" he repeated. "Yes, sir." "Since when?" "Since Monday, sir. We got an internal mail from the chairman's office." Charles' fingers tightened around the phone. "I was not informed," he said slowly. The HR man sounded smaller. "The mail was signed with the chairman's seal, sir. We thought you were aware." Charles ended the call without replying. His heart was beating faster now. Why had he not seen that mail? Had someone bypassed him? He opened his system and dug into his inbox. There it was, internal review, all departments, strict compliance. The sender name was simply Board Secretariat. He clicked it open. The message was brief. All terminations, promotions, and high-level decisions must be reported and cleared with the chairman's office until further notice. Cooperate fully with the audit team. A for the chairman. The chairman, David Adeyemi. Charles licked his lips, suddenly feeling hot, though the AC hummed on high. Down on the ground floor, David was on his knees again, scrubbing the corner of a lobby tile. To anyone watching, he looked like every other cleaner. Sleeves rolled up, knees aching, hands wet. Only Henry knew that while David scrubbed the floor with one hand, he was checking a quiet message on a small hidden phone with the other. Phase 1 complete, Henry had written. All big decisions now pass through your office. Nobody can sack John or bury Linda's file without you seeing it. David smiled faintly and slid the phone back into his pocket. He lifted his head when he heard a familiar laugh. Linda was at the reception, talking to a colleague from HR, a light-skinned woman with bright lipstick and sharp eyes. Her name was Sheila, one of those people who always knew everybody's business. "Linda, my dear," Sheila was saying, "you heard the gist? They are doing audit upstairs. Oh, some people will soon carry their load and go." Linda laughed softly. "Which people?" Sheila rolled her eyes. "Those who think this company belongs to their father. Anyway, how are you? I've been meaning to talk to you." Linda nodded. "I'm fine. Just trying to survive." Sheila leaned closer. "I saw your name on a list yesterday. Something is happening in your favor. But my mouth is sealed." Linda's eyes widened. "In my favor, how?" Sheila just smiled and tapped her nose. "You will see." Later that afternoon, while Linda was helping a customer over the phone, an official mail landed in her inbox. Announcement: staff redeployment and promotion. She clicked it with half interest, then saw her own name. Her breath stopped. "Miss Linda Okoro is hereby promoted from Customer Support Officer to Senior Technical Analyst, effective immediately. Package to include salary upgrade, official apartment allocation, and staff car. Kindly report to HR to finalize documentation." Her headset almost fell off. Her colleague beside her noticed. "Why is your mouth open?" I've been promoted," she whispered. "What?" The girl grabbed her mouse. "Show me." Their eyes went wide together. "Omo," the colleague shouted. "Senior Technical Analyst? Apartment? Car? Ah, God is good." The noise attracted more eyes. Soon there was a small crowd around Linda's desk, clapping, asking questions, some smiling, some hiding jealousy behind fake smiles. Linda, you didn't tell us you know big people." "Oh," one guy joked. Linda shook her head, still in shock. "I don't know anybody." "You don't know anybody, but your name is jumping levels," someone muttered under their breath. Sheila from HR appeared, grinning. "I told you something good was coming, didn't I?" Linda stood up, still feeling like this was a dream. Who approved it?" she asked. Sheila shrugged. "All I know is that the order came straight from the chairman's office. Once that happens, nobody argues." Chairman. The word rang in Linda's ears like a bell from another planet. Downstairs, David was wiping a glass door when Linda almost flew down the stairs, her steps light, her face bright with a kind of joy he had never seen on her before. "John," she called. He turned and immediately dropped the cloth when he saw her expression. "What happened?" he asked. "I've been promoted," she said, almost laughing and crying at the same time. "They are moving me to technical. I'm getting an apartment and a car. They said the order came from the chairman's office." John, can you imagine? For a second, he allowed himself to stare at her happiness fully, no hiding. "That is amazing," he said quietly. "You deserve it." She grabbed his hands without thinking, squeezing them. "God has remembered me, John. I was begging landlord last week, and now this." He felt her warm fingers and had to breathe slowly to control his face. "I told you," he said softly. "Your story cannot end in that small room." She laughed, then suddenly let go of his hands, remembering herself. "Sorry," she said. I'm too happy." "You don't have to apologize," he replied. As they stood there, wrapped in that small bubble of joy, someone watched them again. From the end of the corridor, Sheila leaned on a wall, arms folded, eyes sharp. Her mind was already ticking. Promotion. Official apartment. Car. And who is the first person Linda runs to? Not her colleagues. Not any manager. The cleaner. By evening, gossip had spread like Harmattan fire. Some said Linda had a secret sugar daddy on the board. Some said she had been seen going out of the building late at night with a mysterious man in a black Jeep. None of it was true, but truth is often slower than rumor. In the female restroom, two ladies whispered loudly. "I told you, nobody goes up like that for free," one said. "But she's quiet now," the other replied. "Maybe she just got favor." Favor from where? The first scoffed. Ask yourself why she is always talking to that cleaner. You think it's ordinary. Sheila came out of a stall and washed her hands slowly, pretending not to listen, but soaking in every word. Later, during lunch, she sat beside Linda in the cafeteria with a sweet smile. My newest madam, she said. How does it feel? Linda smiled shyly. I'm still shaking. I don't even know who to thank. Sheila stirred her food. Sometimes you don't need to know. Just enjoy. Then she lowered her voice. But let me advise you, as a friend. Be careful who you keep close now. Linda frowned slightly. What do you mean? Sheila wiped her mouth with a serviette. This promotion you got will attract all kinds of people. Some will pretend to care, but they are just calculating how to enter your new apartment and your car. Especially men. Linda's mind flashed briefly to David's face, his rough shirt, his gentle eyes. Sheila noticed the small flicker. That cleaner, she said lightly. John. I see you with him a lot. Linda smiled. He's just my friend. He's kind. Sheila gave a soft laugh. My sister, open your eyes. A grown man who is still cleaning floors in Lagos will not see your new life and keep quiet. Watch him. Sometimes the person that looks most humble is the most dangerous. You think only women can be gold diggers. Linda stared at her plate, the rice suddenly tasteless. He has never asked me for anything, she said slowly. In fact, I'm the one that gives him food sometimes. Today, Sheila replied. That is today. Tomorrow, when you move into your apartment, when you start driving car, that is when you will know his real intention. I've seen too many stories like this. The words sank into Linda's heart like stones thrown into a calm river, disturbing the water. That evening, as she walked to the bus stop for what might be one of her last days without a car, she saw David waiting near the back gate, holding his mop, ready to clock out. Linda, he called. You are going? Yes, she replied, forcing a smile. I have to rush. HR is taking me to see the new apartment tomorrow. That is good, he said. I'm happy for you. She nodded, but her eyes were more guarded than before. There was a new distance, a fear she couldn't hide completely. He noticed it. Are you okay? He asked. I'm fine, she quickly answered. I've just been thinking a lot. New things, new worries. He wanted to say, you can trust me, but he swallowed the words. Instead, he simply said, whatever happens, I am still your friend. She gave a small, polite smile. Thank you, John. Good night. He watched her walk away, feeling something he didn't like roll over his chest, like a cloud passing over the sun. Inside his pocket, his small phone buzzed. A message from Henry. Charles is furious. He suspects you and Linda are connected. He's digging. We need to move faster. David looked at the darkening sky and knew two storms were now forming at the same time. One in Charles' office, and one inside Linda's heart. Rumors moved through Sunrise Innovations like smoke. Some said Linda's sudden promotion was because she was dating a secret director. Others said she had done what other girls do with Mr. Charles and that he was just pretending to be angry. No one knew the truth, but everybody was talking. The only person more restless than the gossipers was Linda herself. At night, in her new company apartment in Ikeja, she lay on a neat mattress, staring at the ceiling. The room smelled of fresh paint and new curtains. Her new car keys lay on the bedside table. By all standards, this was the life she had prayed for. But her heart was not at rest. Images kept jumping in her mind. Her landlord calling with good news, the miracle of paid rent, the sudden promotion, the new phone and flowers that had once appeared at her door, and one constant face, John the cleaner, with kind eyes that seemed to see deeper than his rough clothes. Sheila's voice hissed in the background of her thoughts. Be careful. Men like that will see your new life and come close. Gold diggers are not only women. One Friday afternoon, after a long day of training in her new department, Linda found herself walking to the back courtyard instead of going straight home. Her feet knew where they were going before she did. David was there, sitting on a low concrete edge near a small tree, wiping sweat from his face with an old handkerchief. His mop and bucket were by his side. When he saw her, he stood up quickly. "Linda, how is Madam Senior Analyst?" She gave a small smile. "I'm still learning. My head is full." He laughed gently, then his expression softened. "You've been distant." She looked away. "I've been thinking." "About what?" he asked quietly. She took a deep breath. The evening sun stretched long shadows across the courtyard. Staff voices echoed faintly from afar, but here it felt like another world. "About you," she said. He swallowed. "Me?" She nodded. "John, you came into my life when things were very hard. I shared water and small food with you. Then suddenly, my rent was paid. My file moved from nowhere to promotion. Gifts showed up at my door. Then a message from the chairman's office changed my whole life." He waited, saying nothing. "I keep asking myself," she continued, "is it just God using strangers? Or is someone planning something? And if someone is planning, why me?" She looked at him, eyes searching his face. "Who are you really, John?" For a moment, he almost told her. Right there. Everything. But another part of him knew the timing wasn't right. One last thing still needed to happen. One last darkness had to be dragged into the light. So he chose a different truth. "I am a man who has been poor," he said slowly. "A man who knows how it feels when people look through you like air. A man who has watched you share your little with others, even when no one is watching." He lifted his eyes to hers. "And I am a man who loves you, Linda." Her breath caught. He continued, voice steady. "I didn't want to say it while you were still struggling. I didn't want you to think you owed me anything. So I kept quiet and just tried to be your friend. But now, whether you live in one small room or a big official apartment, whether you walk or drive, my feelings are the same. I love you. Not your car. Not your new title. You." Silence fell between them, heavy and fragile. Linda's heart beat loudly in her ears. Part of her wanted to run. Part of her wanted to sit down and cry in relief. Sheila's words rose again. "He will see your new life and come close." But then another voice rose stronger. The memory of all the days before the promotion. When she had nothing. When she was begging landlord and sharing rice in nylon. Who was always there? Listening, never asking. John. Tears gathered in her eyes. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "I like you. I respect you. But my head is full of fear. People take advantage. They pretend to care." "I understand," he said softly. "You don't have to answer now. Take your time. Just know this. Even if you never love me back, I will still fight for you to stand in this place with your dignity safe. That one is not romance. It is duty." Her lips trembled. "Why do you care so much?" He smiled sadly. "Let's just say, I've seen too many good people crushed by men with power. I refuse to be another silent witness." Before she could reply, a security officer appeared at the courtyard entrance, slightly out of breath. "John," he called. "Ogre chairman from board has ordered an emergency staff meeting. Everybody must enter the main hall now. Even you cleaners." Linda wiped her eyes quickly. David turned. "Emergency?" he asked, masking his voice. "Yes. It is serious, oh. They are calling everybody. I've never seen this type before." Linda and David exchanged a look. Her worry returned. His eyes hardened with decision. "Let's go," he said. Minutes later, the large conference hall of Sunrise Innovations was full. Cleaners, receptionists, mid-level staff, managers, everyone filled the rows. The air buzzed with confusion. "Maybe they want to sack people," someone whispered. "Maybe they want to announce new policy," another replied. On the front row, Mr. Charles sat stiffly in his finest navy suit, jaw tight. Sheila sat 2 rows behind him, fixing her hair, scanning the room. Linda took a seat near the middle, heart pounding. At the back, still in his faded polo and rubber slippers, David slipped in quietly. But instead of joining the cleaners in their corner, he walked straight down the center aisle. Murmurs rose. Why is the cleaner going to the front? Who allowed him? Is he mad? He climbed the small stage and stood beside the podium, head slightly bowed, cap low over his face. A few people snickered. Charles scoffed loudly. "What is this nonsense?" the GM barked. "Security, remove this man. We came for an announcement, not to watch a cleaner perform." The head of security did not move. Instead, he came forward and stood behind David, facing the audience. The lights dimmed, and a large screen at the back of the stage flickered on. The company logo appeared, then a line of text. Message from the founder and chairman of Sunrise Innovations. A voice came from the speakers, calm, rich, unmistakably authoritative. "Good day, everyone. For years, many of you have worked in this building without knowing the face of the man who built it. My name is David Adeyemi. Today, I choose to stand among you." On the screen, a professional photo appeared. The same voice, and the man on the stage slowly reached up and removed his cap. Gasps exploded like fireworks. The cleaner standing there, in old clothes and slippers, had the same eyes, the same jawline as the chairman on the screen. Without the cap, the illusion broke. One person's phone fell to the floor with a loud crack. Charles' face drained of color. Sheila's mouth hung open. Linda's hand flew to her chest. David raised the microphone. "Yes," he said simply. "I am David Adeyemi, the man you know only as chairman. And for the past weeks, I have been here as John, your cleaner." The room was silent. "I did not come down here because of boredom," he continued. "I came because I was tired of fake respect given only to big cars and expensive suits. I wanted to see with my own eyes how people treat those they think are beneath them. I wanted to find out whose hearts are truly good when they think nobody important is watching." He turned slightly, his gaze sweeping the hall. Some people dropped their eyes. He went on. "During this time, I saw many things. Cleaners insulted like animals. Job applicants asked to trade their bodies for employment. Staff threatened when they refused. Files buried. Bribes taken. Fear used as a weapon." All eyes slid towards Mr. Charles. Henry walked onto the stage with a folder. David opened it. "Mr. Charles," he said, his voice now edged with steel. "You told many people in this building that you own this company. You do not. You told a young woman in my office that she must sleep with you to get a job. You threatened another, saying you would bury her file when she refused to give you her body. You made my company a hunting ground." He lifted several printed complaints. "These are reports that never reached the board because you intercepted them. This is evidence of bribes you collected for recruitment. This is testimony from staff whose careers you tried to destroy." Charles stood up abruptly. "Sir, it's a lie. They are jealous. That cleaner is lying. I was only—" "Enough," David said quietly. The one word cut through him like a knife. "You forgot something, Charles," David continued. "The cleaner you threatened to sack is the man who signs your salary. The girl you tried to break is my staff, not your property." He nodded slightly to security. "Effective immediately, you are fired. You will receive no benefits until the board finishes reporting your case to the authorities. Security will escort you out now." Gasps turned into open murmurs. Security men moved fast, standing on either side of Charles. "This is injustice," Charles shouted, struggling. "All because of one small girl? Because of a cleaner you want to impress? You think you are a god?" David looked at him calmly. "No, I am just a man who remembers that everyone in this building is human, not a toy. Leave." As they dragged Charles out, shame clinging to his fine suit like sweat, a strange relief filled the room. Some staff smiled quietly. Others sighed as if chains had been lifted from their necks. David turned back to the microphone. "There is another group I want to address," he said. "Those who use their tongues to poison others. Who spread gossip, judge hearts they don't know, and call good people gold diggers without evidence." Sheila shrank in her seat. "I will not call names," he added, eyes resting briefly on her. "But if you have been part of this, know that from today, there will be consequences. HR will be monitoring complaints about harassment, gossip, and character assassination. This company will no longer reward that behavior." Then his face softened. "In the middle of all this darkness, I also found light," he said. "I found someone who greeted me when others looked away. Someone who shared water and food with a poor cleaner. Who refused to sell her dignity, even when she believed nobody powerful would ever defend her." His gaze found Linda in the crowd. "Linda Okoro," he said gently. "Please, come forward." Her legs felt like they belonged to another person as she stood and walked to the front, heart pounding. The same man she had called John, the man who had scrubbed toilets and carried buckets, now looked at her like the whole world was watching, and it was. When she reached the stage, he stepped down to meet her halfway. In front of the entire company, he spoke, this time without the microphone. "I am the one who told Henry to find your landlord," he said softly. "I am the one who paid your rent. I am the one who pushed your file to the place it should have been long ago. Not because I wanted to trap you, but because I saw someone working hard in silence, and I wanted to correct an injustice." Her eyes filled with tears. "I also fell in love with you as a cleaner," he continued, his voice almost breaking. "And that love has not changed now that I am standing here as chairman." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. A murmur ran through the hall like wind. He went down on one knee. The man who owned the building, in his faded trousers and rubber slippers, knelt in front of the woman who once walked to work with worn-out shoes. "Linda," he said, his eyes never leaving hers. "You loved me, or at least cared for me, when you thought I was nothing. If your heart can accept me as a cleaner and as a chairman, as poor and as rich, will you marry me and walk beside me, not behind me, as we build this company and our lives together?" Tears spilled over her cheeks. For a moment, all the voices that had tried to confuse her went silent. She remembered water shared in the lobby, toast given on the stairs, quiet conversations in the back corridor. A man who risked his job to confront a powerful boss for her sake. A man who promised to protect her even if she never loved him back. She smiled through the tears. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will marry you." The hall erupted. People stood, clapping, shouting, some even wiping their eyes. The cleaners at the back hugged each other wildly. Even the head of security allowed himself a small grin. David slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood and wrapped her in a brief, respectful embrace. Months later, Lagos would still be talking about the wedding of the billionaire chairman who disguised himself as a cleaner and married the humble staff who shared her last rice and refused to sell her dignity. At Sunrise Innovations, new policies protected staff from harassment. HR became a shield, not a weapon. The young job seeker whom Charles once tried to exploit returned and was hired properly, her head held high. Sheila, after a formal warning and demotion, slowly learned that respect and honesty opened more doors than gossip ever could. And in a bright office with a view of the city, David and Linda worked side by side, not just as husband and wife, but as partners, determined to build a company where nobody had to fear the powerful or despise the lowly. Dear viewers, what would you have done if you were in Linda's shoes? Would you have turned down the manager's offer, not knowing help was coming? And what do you think about David's decision to hide as a cleaner to test people's hearts? Was it wise or too risky? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next powerful folktale.